this year. And
This thing just fell. I don't know how to fix it. No, how it just fell.
This part is like the length of it, right?
Yeah.
It just fell.
Oh no.
And then it pulls up here. Capacity.
oh, I got it.
No, this part.
Yep.
It's gonna fall out.
Oh, that's weird. Okay, we're starting. You guys ready? Yeah, one. You can sit here, Cass. I think I'm going to just sit by the side. So if this is this mountain.
Good evening, everybody. What up, what up? My name is Mike Blake. Good to see everybody. To welcome you to the greatest borough in all of New York City. Some of y'all ain't glad about the book. It's okay. She got to take care of her constituents. I understand. I've had the honor to do a lot of incredible work with Gathering for Justice over the years. It's been an honor to obviously collaborate, and I'm grateful for them to be hosting all tonight. Give Gathering for Justice a round of applause. Everybody that made tonight happen. We say thank you to all the team members. There's a lot of work that happened behind the scenes. We got to pull off an event. So we thank you for being here tonight. As you may know, Gathering for Justice was founded in 2005. But of course, the legendary artist and activist Eric Belafonte, who his whole mission has been to end child incarceration and eliminate racial disparities in our criminal justice system. Organization is led by phenomenal Shiro, one of our dear assistants here, President and CEO, Carmen Perez-Jordan. Now, this is part of an effort called Radical Reads. Radical Reads is a monthly book club inspired by Eric Belafonte's idea of sustaining radical book club. Launched 2017, the monthly series of book recommendations utilize the power of art and educational tools to explore all the issues that are happening in our communities every single day. So we know together we work on racial justice, on social justice, on mass incarceration being eliminated, and intersectional movement building that's happening here. So every few months, Gathering for Justice is hosting these corporate events such as tonight. I would say that she's our civil rights leader of this generation, Tamika Mallory. So, acknowledge first and foremost, it's always good when you have a lot of phenomenal sisters in the room. We have one of our recent electeds here, and I'm going to get to Queen, but I got you love to the Bronx first and foremost. Let me acknowledge our newly elected councilwoman, Mariana Sanchez in the building. Any question who she was, it's her face that's right outside.
That's right.
Banner will let you know that she's your councilwoman. So don't be calling me about your flat tires, about your housing, and that's no, hold on. And we got to show love, both mom and dad, the parents right here. So next, we want to bring up and show some love as well. Same way we want to take care of Dorina and have her back out here in the Bronx and make sure she has the support she needs. To kick off the program before we bring up Carmen and Tamika, we're going to start with reading the book. I want to welcome a sister that I'm incredibly proud of, who I remember, she tells the story often, that when we were at the Black, Hispanic, and Asian Caucus, I would always say, I was tired of people treating the staff as if the staff didn't know what they were doing. And we needed to hear their voices and take her to the table. And I said, Natasha, what do you think? All these elected are talking, they don't know what they're talking about right now. What do you think? And I'm grateful now that she wasn't just a staffer, but now they can show love because she's now our councilwoman out of Southeast Wayne.
It's a rough bunch here.
I'm just honored to even be here to read this forward. In the words of Carter B, everybody knows I'm totally up and stuff for me with this community Mallory. And so with that, I'll just get started. I'm from the bottom. To a lot of you women, you have no idea what that means. The bottom is a place where you have to learn to survive before you get to live. I grew up in the Bronx. That was my bottom. But the bottom applies to any ghetto in America. The faces may change, but the problems in every hood are the same. The bottom is a place where mothers have to figure out how to feed their kids. It's a place where there are no jobs. It's where there are more bodegas and liquor stores than grocery stores. It's where violence is so out of control that you have to slip your face down with Vaseline in case someone tries to fight you on the way to school. It's like a piece of society that America has forgotten. Like a piece of a garden that's grown without water. So the only thing growing out of the hood is weeds, and that unlikely flower that survives through cracked economy. I guess I would be considered the rose that grew from concrete. I made it out, but a lot of people I love are still dead, still suffering, still neglected. Nobody can hear their cries for help, so I use my voice. Don't get me wrong, I ain't no activist. Tamika is the activist. She's the one that people need. I'm just a real-ass bitch who's not afraid to speak up when I see something wrong. Sorry, That's the thing that gets me. America is breaking when it comes to disrespecting and systematically murdering people of color. It's obvious. It's wrong. but everybody's afraid to speak up. They're afraid to use their endorsement, afraid to offend their fans, but I can't help it. If I see it, I have to speak it, because I've been blessed with a platform that people pay attention to. Yes, I'm a rapper. Yes, I twerk. No, I'm not trying to be your children's role model, but I still have an opinion on the injustices of Black and brown people. I don't care that I'm not perfect. I don't care that it doesn't come out eloquently. People misunderstand my message sometimes because it comes out wrong. I don't express it like a scholar. I get emotional. I let my anger bring out the accent. And sometimes it exposes the things I don't know. I curse. I call people out. I say all the right things the wrong way. But I'll tell you this. You don't have to be a college graduate to be on the right side of history. My heart leads me to speak up. I don't gain anything from speaking up, for standing with Tamika, for aligning myself with Breonna Taylor's family, or bringing awareness to our brothers and sisters locked up in prison. I just want change. I'm trying to contribute to change. This conversation is for everybody. Every voice belongs at the table, from those surviving at the bottom, like I was once upon a time in the Bronx, to the rich white celebrities who grew up in Beverly Hills. Everyone who is willing to speak about the injustices against people of color should be welcome to this fight. No, I'm not on the front line. We have our superheroes for that. That's the media thing. That's how I feel. But the awareness that I can bring with the single tweet, with the single social media post, with the single soundbite is what I'm bringing to the populace. That's my contribution. And yes, sometimes I put my foot in my mouth. Sometimes I feel out of place. Sometimes I feel unwelcome because I'm not a traditional activist, but I still activate. I hope this book, written by a woman who I look up to, a woman who shows all sides of herself to make sure she is relatable to regular people like me, I hope I learn from her words. I hope this book gives me knowledge and helps me understand the history of the plight of people of color. I don't want to study it the way I did when I was in school. I want to feel Tamika's perspective. I want to be inspired and guided to be a better activist so that I use my voice in a way that is impactful to the fight for freedom. Because I'm criticized a lot for speaking up and saying the wrong things. I see people talk about my lyrics and me twerking like those things don't allow me to give myself to injustice. The world makes me feel like I don't have a seat at the table sometimes. But the ones who love to criticize shouldn't care about who is sitting at the table. Whether it's an old school activist from the great civil rights era or a new school social media activist, we all want the same thing. If I'm doing something wrong in the way I represent the movement, don't shut me, teach me. Help me.
That's right.
Tell me how to use my influence in a way that pushes forward the agenda for justice and equal rights. That's what I want. I'm so honored to be in this book with Dr. Angela Davis. She is our hero. Sometimes because of haters, I feel like I should just shut up, but I know I can't. It's too serious. Dr. Davis, please tell me and people like me how to be activated. Are we welcome? How does someone like me, someone who has no political background, who's a little loud, a little unbuttoned, how does that girl away from the bottom to make Cardi B?
Give it up for that topic. Come on, give it up for that. We do have a live feed going as well, so others on the outside can see what's happening here. So if you were supposed to be someplace else, you better find an excuse right now because we're going to share it out, put this out there right now. My next and final thing, for any of us that were there for the women's marching activities that happened, I always say, make sure to tell the full story of what occurred, in particular, that it was women of color who made that happen.
That's right.
Sometimes you read the stories and people don't want to tell the truth of what was going on itself. But if not for Tamika and Carmen and Linda and that entire crew, everyone that was out there mobilizing, that doesn't happen. And it is our job to have their back. It is our job to protect them. They had their two politicians that were talking about this 2 days ago with Mike and Teresa. For the men in the room and the men that are watching, I often say you can be a man and a feminist at the same time. It is our responsibility to make sure we look after our sisters and support them. So without further ado, let's bring up these two phenomenal sheroes, Carmen Perez Jordan and Tamika Mallory.
My son is super excited to be here. Really excited to be here with all of you for this special Radical Reads. About a year and a half ago, our last in-person Radical Reads was Linda Sarsour. Yeah. It is to have our first Radical Reads in person again with Tamika Mallory. It is just so, it's just amazing. So, let's give it Thank you so much, Michael Blake, for bringing us here. I just want to say it reminded me, I turned to Tamika and I said, this reminds me of when we first started. We were in a room like this, we were all together, we had Michael Blake and Natasha, we had everybody, and we just had this desire to change the world together, and we've been able to do that and also have our own journey. So let's get started. So I want to bring up some special people to read some excerpts from Tamika's book. We hope the pieces that we've chosen for you here tonight will give you a small taste of the power and importance of state of emergency. So let's welcome in order Angelo Pinto.
Thank you. I'm Angelo Pinto.
Yes, sir. Yes, you are.
So I'll start. The greatest unresolved travesty in American history remains the brutal system of humane enslavement in the South. It is the origin of Black America, of impoverished America, of incarcerated America. Black Americans have faced, that's right, the most damaging forms of discrimination of any group in this nation's history. While all ethnic races have experienced moments of discrimination here, systemic oppression for Black Americans has endured uninterrupted for centuries. It isn't a moment, it isn't a stretch of time where Black people have had it rough and needed to earn their place in life. The invisible need on the necks of the Black community has never let up. It is the totality of our experience, and the clock still ticks as 402 years of systemic racism proceed. We were born oppressed, we live oppressed, and we die oppressed. It is a system that offers no pride, no reparation, only a reoccurrence of injustice. It's a cycle. It's a generational burden passed down through the days of enslavement. Doesn't mean there isn't any stories of success in Black excellence. Most of our people, however, deal with their trauma as a normal part of daily existence.
I stepped foot in the streets to protest in the pursuit of justice. There are moments along that pursuit that feel lonely. I am not new to activism. This has been a 25-year journey for me and has not always come with support and understanding. Many out there perceive me as an angry Black woman. Well, I am. I am angry because Black men are under attack by the very entity we've been told represents safety. I am angry because my community and the communities of my people are policed based on appearance rather than suspicion. I am angry because innocent, unarmed Americans are being murdered by the state sworn to protect them left and right for no justifiable reason. How can can you sit by and watch George Floyd cry out for his deceased mother while being choked out by a racist cop and feel anything less than anger? Angry Black women is that. I personally never contested that, but recently others have begun to share in my rage. The world has been awakened to the inherent being of the Black experience. Whether it be through personal tragedy or through witnessing injustice over social media, there has been an influx of support and outcry demanding justice. It's a moment that has been a long time coming. 246 years in the making of that. We cannot abide by a world where humanity condones brutality by gun, by cop, by neglect, or by God. I said that. As the daughter of two activists, I witnessed injustice after injustice at every stage of my upbringing. I didn't learn about the plight of the Black community or the harms of racial capitalism in a sociology class. I was a part of the class of people those sociologists study: the misunderstood, the impoverished, the disenfranchised, the subclass citizens that America hates to acknowledge. Growing up in the ghetto is as equally traumatic as it is empowering. Many can't fathom that, but it's true. There is a pulse on the dilapidated streets of Harlem, and I'm sure every other ghetto across America. It is a culture. It's a shared experience of survival. If you escape it, you really aren't afraid of anything because you've already beaten what was designed to destroy you. I was a part of the struggle that mainstream America swept under their rugs. My philosophies aren't secondhand knowledge, but degrees I earned from the School of Hard Knocks. I grew up in one of the world's roughest concrete jungles during the emergence of the crack epidemic. I was a little Black girl who understood very early that I was looking at life through the bars of a trap designed within a system of white supremacy.
Dr. Tamika D.
The performance of being Black in America is exhausting. Putting on the mask of assimilation every day, most likely for 8 hours a day if you work within the economic institution, and lowering your Blackness until you return to the perceived safety of the four walls you call home. It's something you've done for so long that you don't even need to practice. You just dial it down a little as soon as you step out of your door, because if you don't, your life is at stake. I don't subscribe to that method of survival. I've been in this freedom fight for 2 decades, and I realized that my undiluted Blackness is worth fighting for. I've committed to the possibility that it's worth dying for. I am who I am, but I understand those who are just surviving while Black the best way they see fit, juggling between their authentic selves and a version of Black that is digestible in a white society. I understand that adaptation, that skill which is developed in order to survive. Being a Black woman is even harder. Malcolm once called a Black woman the most disrespected person in America. I can confidently say that the burden of American Blackness is almost unbearable. But don't mistake my meaning. I wouldn't want to do anything else. Black comes with a rhythm that turns our bodies apart when we hear a dope beat. It turns scraps of food that others find useless into feasts large enough to feed entire communities. It transforms poetry plus percussion into an art form all its own, hip-hop. It infuses the way the world thinks of what's cool, what's culture, and what's dope.
Dr. Jamila T. Davis.
Yeah.
Black people add seasoning to everything we touch, whether it's clothing, music, dance, or art. Our culture is beautiful. from the tint of my skin to the kink of my hair. But despite all these beautiful things, there is a hardship attached to being black. There are rules we all must remember to follow to get by. Black women know them all too well. Rule number one, do not raise your voice when faced with any challenge. Consequence, they will call you angry. Rule number two, do not wear any hairstyle that they can deem ethnic in a professional or scholastic setting. Sex styles include braids, locks, afros, bald heads, natural, and curl patterns. Consequence, they will touch your hair, assume you're unkept, and call you ghetto. In extreme cases, you may be expelled or fired from the institution. Rule number three, never admit or complain about feelings of sadness or calm to be overwhelmed. Always power through extreme levels of pain and silence. Consequence, they will call you mentally unstable or erratic. Rule number four, never ask for help. Consequence, they will call you lazy or incompetent. Rule number five, don't talk back. Consequence, that you will be deemed dangerous. Rule number six, don't protest unjust abuse. Consequence, they will say you hate America. Rule number seven, always keep your hands in plain sight, either on the dashboard or the steering wheel, and look straight ahead. And when you get pulled over by the police, that one is for black men too, a universal rule. Consequence, they will kill you.
City Council Member Vanessa Davidson.
More than 40 countries around the world joined the protest in 2020 against the brutalization of black people. We saw an awakening. The entire planet recognized the plight of black Americans and decided that enough is enough. The world's beacon on a hill can no longer also project violence globally and leave its underclasses to suffer. People are choosing a side, not everybody, but many. Racist versus anti-racist, right versus wrong, moral versus immoral. We must ask ourselves, what type of world we want to live in? What type of society do we want to pass on to our children? If you are new to this fight, racism may not be as easily identifiable to you. It is not always obvious, so let me be clear in my definition of what a racist is. A racist individual is someone who believes their race is superior and will lie, will kill, or steal to keep and impose that power. It is not enough to be non-racist. In the words of Ibram X. Kendi, an anti-racist is someone who believes in equality and recognizes racism and fights against it, even within themselves. All communities come with their ideas of what other communities might be like. Everyone has bias. Everyone makes assumptions. My judgments, everyone makes judgments. It is not realistic for me to say otherwise. It's nice to think of oneself as more enlightened than the rest. But in truth, none of us are perfect. We all have moments of prejudice. We all have categorized a group of people based on history and stereotypes imparted long before we ourselves were born. And that is why being non-racist is not enough. We must work hard to go against racism. Yeah.
While I have
do my part to humanize Black men, to give life to their pain, because America seems to think we are all complacent in the dysfunction that plagues our community. America tends to think we don't aspire to rise from the concrete levels we've been placed in traffic. Next, I want to tap into the hearts of Black men, some who have never shared their experience, their trauma, the reasoning behind their choices. It isn't just white women. Black women also sometimes struggle to hear and empathize with Black men. Other communities misunderstand that unprocessed trauma sits behind their stature, their blackness, the stern drives, the defensive demeanors. The exterior is a defense mechanism to protect them from a world that is designed to inflict harm. The numbers from the step. They're unfairly attacked. It's about the experiences, those nuances I spoke about earlier. That's what this part is about. Some things must be humanized to understand how we got here, to dissect how the mere presence of a Black man became something that other races feared. The problem is, I don't think that I can tell that to Philip. I don't think that I can tell that. I don't have full access to their history, their strife. They must tell their own. They must tell their own. They must tell their own. Let me introduce to you my brother, an important partner in the work, in my work. I love to let them tell their truth in this way.
By the time I realized that I was being everything that society labeled me, I was on my way to jail. The options America presents to Black men are traps that lead to our extinction or our enslavement. The design of this country and the pockets of decayed land they give Black people to exist in doesn't make room for life. There is no living happening in the projects. When you're inside a burning building and you're facing pain and inevitable death, you take the nearest exit. You don't care if the window you take to get out is 4 stories above the ground. You jump out of it just to escape. That's how we end up in the streets. That's how we end up hurting our communities. To survive, you harden yourself because vulnerability equals death. So I fiend strength, even when I'm terrified. Even when I'm weak, Black men have to be strong at all times. There are no days off. There's no moment of respite. I'm Black at all times. I'm public enemy number 1 all the time. I'm exhausted. Every time another Black man is gunned down by police brutality, I build that harder wall higher because it becomes crumbling down, and I allow myself to feel the weight of what it means to be a Black man. The burden will crush me. The Black man's greatest burden is to see light within himself when the rest of the world has committed him to darkness.
Last but not least, Ms. Arson.
So Tamika passed the mic to me to tell the story of the Women's March in this book. And so these are my words. One thing about Tamika is she can't be bought. When we agreed to bring women of color to the Women's March, we had one condition. We refused to work with corporate sponsors. I raised money from prominent nonprofits and we called all our personal friends for donations because we didn't want to sell our voice. We didn't want to stand in front of a Walmart sign and be conscious of saying things that were agreeable to corporations. When you aren't for sale, your voice can't be controlled to reflect the corporate narrative. You can't speak on controversial issues when your funding comes from the institution. Tamika is free. Everything that has given her notoriety in this fight is because she has done
done and said things that others are afraid to speak on. She calls things that they are and is willing to take the consequences that come along with that. She's willing to be uncomfortable for freedom. Tamika stands in her power and is proof to a new generation of activists that you can be powerful and influential by being your unapologetic self. She is exactly who she says she is and must be protected at all costs. Thank you to all our leaders. One, I just want to remind everybody that in the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd, you had the most powerful speech of our generation. And as many people were, in quarantine, you were out still on the front lines fighting for Black lives. And that's Tamika Mallory. To the core, I remember, always knowing when something happened that it was gonna upset you, and you would feel it. You would feel it in a way that nobody around you ever felt the pain. I don't think many of us were able to understand. And so to hold this book, to hear your speech from afar, for those of us that weren't able to be on the front lines with you, and I know that many were, this is such an important part of not just the current movement, but the movements of the past that are also in this book. And I think about that because I was listening to it. So, I don't have marks on mine because I have to listen to things, or else babies get books and go on their friend. I was listening to the conversations that it felt it was a conversation between Cardi and Angela Davis. And why was it important for that to be the opening of your book?
Well, first of all, I'm really moved by hearing the words, and I've had to read the book so many times for different reasons. In the beginning, when writing the book, I cried because anybody who writes a book is crazy. It's absolutely insane. It's a real hard process. And I was really intentional about a lot of things in the book, and before a young lady who helped me to put it together, she was just like, it's not that serious. I was like, yes, it's that serious. It's me. So it's all very, very serious. And when I decided that I wanted to have Cardi B and Dr. Davis in conversation together, the concept of that type of forward was very difficult for people to understand. And the publishing house, they were like, well, then it's two forwards. Or no, first they said it was a forward and an introduction. And I was like, that's not right. One forward, a conversation between two people, they were like, that's not how it works. I was like, yeah, but in my book, and so there was a lot of back and forth with folks who were like, no, it just can't, and we have to do it like this, and we need to put the S on the end of make it plural, and we went through all of those little details, and finally I called Charlotte, and I was like, you're the boss, right? Yeah, you're supposed to be the man here. You call these people and tell these people this is how I need to have my book. And he's like, no, that's fine, that's it. Right. It was important because I didn't want to have them separated. I did not want to have it be a forward and then an introduction that was not intertwined, where the conversation was very consistent and flowing, and you know that there is a question and an answer. And I think that we as younger people have lots of questions, and we ought to respect that our elders have lots of answers. And so to have Cardi asking Dr. Davis this deep question of whether or not there's room for her at the table next to someone like Dr. Davis, that was powerful just by itself. But to have Dr. Davis respond and say, absolutely there's room. And in fact, you are very important in the struggle. And in the book, which first of all, you need to buy it. Yes, why? But you get a sneak peek today. Dr. Davis tells a story about a moment when Nina telling these stories as we were putting the book together. And so when I first heard it, I was like, wait a minute, is that going to, like, are you going to write that down? Because that was so powerful, it brought me to tears. Where Nina Simone visits Dr. Davis in prison. And now I didn't know at one point you could go to somebody's jail cell. Y'all know that? I never knew that. It's my first, I couldn't believe it. I was like, so she was in your cell. I'm like, you know how black folks make up stories? Horror stories that make it sound good. I was like, I get what you're trying to do. She was like, no. She was in my cell. And she said, they brought me Simone in, and she sat down, and she looked around the room, and she was looking at all the books that Dr. Davis had stacked up. And she was like, okay, wait a minute. I'm not prepared. If you are reading all of this, how can I even go out and try to lead anyone? Because I don't have all this information. I've never read these books. I don't even know what these books are. And Dr. Davis turns around and tells her in truly Anthony Davis style, you don't need to worry about that. What you need to do is use the voice you have and take the message and translate it to the people, because you have a platform and a pulpit, if you will, that I don't even have, even though I write all the books. And so that type of encouragement to Cardi B is what I think all of us need. And I think that the folks that we had today, that Jules, thank you very much, helped to curate as part of this event are the generation of those that Dr. Davis is saying, use what you have. Use what's in you.
There's a lane for everywhere. I think what was really beautiful about that conversation was the fact that she talked about Nina Simone reaching a broader audience that she didn't have access to. And oftentimes I think about my son, right? The fact that he's able to speak to a different group of individuals, but also the fact that she also named people like Harry Belafonte. She named all these individuals that she felt were cultural icons. Exactly. I really love that piece, but I also felt very connected to the conversation in the sense of we often talk about being intersectional people, being able to like listen to that ratchet, like that's Mr. Ratchet, like being sophisticated but a little ratchet, and so I really thought it was a perfect combination of just the conversation. You dedicate this book to your son. And I know that Tariq means the world to you. That is your best friend, that is your heart, he's your purpose. He's also somebody, that you get on a lot. But I think it's because you really want him to live, right? And you allow some of these pages to have my son's story, but also dedication to Black men. Why was it important for you to dedicate this and write this?
Well, because Tariq, I feel like he has suffered so much as a result of my lifestyle. He probably is the person who could be the most upset. Sometimes when he's in trouble for something, now he's 22, but when he wasn't 22, when he was in trouble for something, he used that as his excuse. You were never there, Victoria knows all about it. You were never home, how can you come and tell me what to do now? Because I don't know you, and you don't know me, and the whole rigmarole we've been through. And I realized that, unfortunately, in the quest to fight for everyone else's children, my own child was left behind. And if it were not for my parents there was this moment at the cemetery where they were lowering Jason's body into the ground. And my father says, wait, wait, wait. He goes up to the casket and he takes his fist and punches the casket a few times. And he didn't say a word, but I know that he was telling Jason, I got this. Like, I would never let your son go, you know? And he says later on that that's exactly what was in his mind. It's like he needed to give a real message to him in his own, like a tangible way, that I'm gonna hold this little boy down. I got it. And he has had me. And so the book gives me an opportunity to say to my child, here's what I've been doing. Right? Like, you know, I wasn't like all the way toward it, right? I took a little bit along the way, but 90% is all 82% is I was doing this work that is in this book, and I feel like he told me in phases, you know, and you know, of course I do this dedication to him, and I give it to him, and I'm all like teary-eyed, and I'm like, look, Terry, this is my book, and did you read what I said? And he's like, it's cool. So, but then he says to me the other day, he's like, you know, I got about 6 of those books in my house. And I'm like, really? Like, you have 6 of my books? I was like, okay, come on. Yeah, of course I have 6 books. And he was prepared, and he wanted to take the one that I had. He's like, all right, thank you. And so I think he got it. And I think that this book is the, you know, you give your kids everything that you can give them. And I think the 2 things that I probably have been able to grant and gift him have been his education and, of course, my book, which is A Lady of Love.
Which is very beautiful to see from
So I asked him to go with me somewhere. He told me it was too late for this.
It is really beautiful to witness his interaction with how deep, I think, not just love, but respect and admiration he has for you. So you've done a wonderful job, as well as your.
That sounds really good. Angelo and my son listening to us having a fight and trying to, they're like the mediators. They're like, what is that?
You know, I heard Dr. Jamila Davis read the roles of engagement, the rules of engagement. That was deep. That's hard. Tell us why you shared that.
So writing this book, you know, like with everything else that I do, I obsess over what is potential perfection that is not realistic. But I obsess over it, and I know that you, Tammy, know exactly what I'm talking about. So we went through this outline, and I suggest to people that if you're thinking about writing a book, you should be as insane as I am with Carmen. Just passing the time. It's time for you and Angelo to write your books. We
or give certain people, right, this reaction when you're just speaking your truth, right, fragility, right? And so there's a lot of moments when you and I were trying to speak our truth, yet we were consistently told to tone it down.
And lied.
Exactly.
Twisted.
Exactly, yeah. But I thought that was very, in the book and also hearing it that I think it's important for people to go to that section.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was like that was, for me, that is a place in the book where I send them.
Exactly.
I send them to the forward. I send them to the rules of engagement. I send them to my son's area of his life because what he read today is like, it's not enough. If you had not read the area where my son talks about his life, you're missing something. Because everybody who reads the book for real from cover to cover comes back to me, and there's certain things that I hear over and over, and one of them is that my son's story is not. That's one of them. Obviously, Linda's part is important, and the reason why Linda's part is important is not because she's telling the story of women's part. That's actually not the reason why this part is important. That's relevant. But what's important is that I lead into it by saying, y'all won't believe me because no one believes Black women when we tell our story. So I have to go solicit the help of somebody else to tell it because I actually believe her more than you believe me. And that's why she's in the book telling her story. And then of course, when it gets to the solutions part, because that was the thorn in my side. It's like somebody was piercing me every day. And the one thing that Charlie never bothered me one time. But then they called after he read the book, because he's a cover reader. And he's like, this is something. I'm like, who do I send the advance money back to? Because I don't know anymore. And he's like, the solutions, they're just not, it's not enough. I need more than this. I need more than this. So I was like, oh, I do. Right. And broken, so we're going to turn it and go. Turn it slash preacher slash some other things that we want. Especially now while he's with his new love, you know. But you know, I had to go to him and say, yo, help me out because I was lacking in certain things. And even still, what we recognize is that solutions in our community is always evolving. Because at the time, the word reform was okay with us, right? We believe that that's what we were fighting for, reforming police, reform. But today, it would be overhaul, it would be abolition, it would be overhaul. I do not use the word reform anymore, but the book says reform. So of course, when the book is done and it's out in the world and it has the word reform, I'm like, oh, fuck.
But it's not, so please go buy it. You know, I really wanted to spend more time with you, and I know I have to catch a flight, but I want to just talk about the controversy of organizing. It's, you know, you wake up every single day knowing that
Jay's here, like, okay, it's time now. Like, I gotta drop my kids.
Because I really think this is an important conversation around the controversy, right? Just everything. First of all, you wake up every single day because your heart is empty. You're not just hearing the pain that you're witnessing on TV or that you've experienced in the community. It is generational. And you've been doing this work for 2 decades. For folks who don't know what 2 decades are, that is 20 plus years, right? And so I just want people to know how long you've been in the movement. You've been not just, and so the work of yourself, right? 2 decades, the work you did as a child with your parents, so there's just life. It's life, right? It's serving life.
And even when I was living in the streets, it's because I was learning and becoming what I am today so that I can be. Yes, sir. I wanted to just practice that. I want people to know, like, first of all, your heart, right? And I wanted people to know your dedication. It's not just something that you woke up because you personally felt connected to. You've been connected to it prior to what happened to your father's or your son's father. The controversy. I mean, I think that because you have to that we both did the controversy our time, except to say that this room is important because these are people who pull us out of the pain. That's right. And we experienced a whole lot of hell. We've been through a whole lot of stuff. And there's been a whole lot of people who have really wanted to try to destroy us for many different reasons. They weren't only that today. They take things I said and put it together with other things. I'm like, no, I must be lit. Like, I know I was on Twitter, like, I'm not even get on Twitter. Right? What? I got receipts. She's been paying for stuff on her own. It's crazy. Like, they have YouTube pages now that they have dedicated to what we've done, fakes and frauds and all of this and that. And I just had to eventually accept the fact that if you don't have haters, you ain't coming. And the people literally want your attention. That's what they want. Like, if you were to see them somewhere and you gave them a little bit of attention, they would be like your biggest fans. That's really what they need. Unfortunately, because they're toxic as hell, no one has ever taught them that the way to actually go about it is not the way that they're attempting to do it, and that is in fact it's dangerous for those of us who have experienced being around people who are toxic. Like, we know who we've been through. I mean, Linda walks into me every other week. She sends me, I don't know why she keeps doing this, but every other week she sends me a picture of me at 99 pounds during the women's month. And I have no idea why she thinks that picture is so, I don't know why it's so easily readily available in her phone to just text it to people all the time. But the one thing I will say is that picture represents the time when I was addicted to painkillers, not sleeping, not eating, and around people who, if I died, they would rejoice. And I know that. And to be now at 130 pounds, which is a whole hell of a lot, and to be eating like I don't even, they need to help me. I'm trying to figure out a plan to stop eating. And to be around people, right? And to be around people who actually love me, who actually care about me, to be able to pick up the phone and not be crying today, but be having a good laugh, which is not, that hasn't been the situation. I cried every single day, and he knows, he would call me like, damn, like, what are you doing? Like, there's nothing anybody, like, I don't know what to do. And now I'm like, yeah, what's happening? What you doing? And that's what life is all about. So we came a long way after we go in. What's next? Well, I told you I'm crazy. Next is about, and I know Angela will have to say this, I think next is all about building infrastructure for generations to come. Next, now we're building legacy. That's the part we're in today. It is building institutional power so that we can pass this down to baby J. Listen, right? And to all the children. And so that's what we're doing. That's what I'm focused on. And the other part of it is just being grateful to God. That's right. For
the stairs there?
Oh my God. I mean, I think we're pretty much done.
Can we hear some announcement from Vanessa?
Say that if you're going to need a little bit more time with Carmen, but I don't bring my son and Linda and Vanessa and Michael up here, and let's just have a little bit of a conversation about the work tonight. You know, Michael,
Throw us in the bus right now. Just throw us in the bus.
So Vanessa, you want to come up? I say, this is our next council president.
Victor. And we gotta show a little thank you to Monroe College. One of the reasons we came to Monroe, folks don't know this, Monroe has the highest graduation rate of Black men in all of New York State. And then, real quick, we're gonna show up. We see our councilwoman up there. We and then my assemblywoman is up in the building. She brought a little one right there. We, of course, one quick thing that we will be able to speak and then let it rock from here. People want to know, how did you pick the title?
Oh, well, so in my speech, I said that we were in a state of emergency because we are. And then people said, Tamika Mallory has declared a state of emergency. Tamika Mallory has, I said, in the speech that I delivered in Minneapolis following the death of George Floyd, I said that we're in a state of emergency because we are, and we've been in one forever. And then people said, oh, the media says Tamika Mallory declares a state of emergency. And Charlamagne said, that's so.
That sounds like a song right there. Sounds like a song.
They made it up for us. We got a title.
Vento, Vice, talk about the journey.
Right. Linda, I'm doing this.
Sit down. Sit down.
The vision that people don't see, right? What's happening in the protection, the armor bearers, the brothers of the journey that people don't talk about? Because a lot of times people just assume it's just one person trying to figure this out, but it's a family, right? What is it that people are not seeing? What keeps you going in the midst of this? And then you're going to turn this into,
Tell them everything.
you can't tell them everything right now. So, my experience, please.
I mean, I think what a lot of people in this room, a lot of people here close is that this is really a thing. You know, this is not a job, it's just people who, you know, it's our code. We have connected in purpose. And when you connect in purpose, it's way different. You know, it's way different. So we all unified. You know, we don't agree on a lot of things, but we love each other and respect each other. And we can move even if we don't agree. You know, I'm going to do what you say, even though I agree with you because I respect you. And I believe that you want my best interest in you. And that's when you have a team like that who will check you and say, I don't really agree with that. And we don't sit there and argue about it, but at the end of the day, we're going to all come to a conclusion that's going to better everyone.
I just want y'all to know that I said that on Saturday at the event.
Yeah, that's
You said you give the person credit the first time. That's the way it
Well, I
works.
don't know, you know what it is when you go around somebody so much and they say, you got to
Oh, say the same again.
You know, in making this book, we were in war, right? We protested, we were living, and in between protesting, we get locked up. Tamika's like, I gotta go write for 2 hours to write this book. And she's in, right before we got rally, she's just sitting there, going back and forth with this book. She's locking herself in the room, and then we're going out there and we get arrested. So just to understand the journey that it took to get this book, that we all, she would come to us and ask us certain things like, she came in Angelo for the solution. There's certain things that when you watch it, it's like we all, even though she wrote it, but it was all about her. So when you have a team, and whatever happens, you feel like it's your victory, it's, you know what I'm saying? I think that's what it is about our organization, our family, is that we see each other as one.
Yes.
I think the people you're around and the things you do will make or break you, right? So I think the thing that makes Tamika who she is in this historical moment is the people she was wise enough to surround herself with. It makes a difference. Because if you, and she knows, the woman knows, you surround yourself with a particular group of individuals and they can bring you from heaven. But if you surround yourself with the right kind of individual, they can elevate you into the place that you need to be in the moment you need to be there. And I think that's exactly what happened. No one could have foreseen that the murder of George Floyd would have been what it was. But because of so many other moments that we were doing the work, we were prepared to say, let's be present in that moment, we were present in that moment. And because of who we were together, Tamika was able to elevate and capture the moment in a way that really no one else could. And as a result,
I've never been on the receiving end of Tamika telling me what to do. I'm sure Mike said, Angelo, that's never been a scenario Tamika reminding you that you listen to what she just said you're supposed to do. So, to our councilwoman and to the next borough president, so in the journey, it's universal. Okay, good. I'm glad we all feel the same way. So I always say an excellent writing for a book is like a story. And there's an element where Tamika talks through how systems have to change. And then the very next beginning of the next chapter is about the burden of blackness. So I think it's the perfect symmetry to our world president to be. What is the system that's changing while you are embracing the burden of blackness?
That was deep.
I mean, I've done this a few times.
Thank you. I think people are starting to awaken to the reality of the society we live in, where as much progress as we can make, we are still defined by what we look like, by our race, and by our gender. But even despite all of that, one thing I appreciate about my brothers and my sister, and Dr. Jamila Davis and everyone, is that they never forget where they come from. And at the end of the day, you know that God is using you. And then God is allowing you this space to be a role model for so many other people. And when I decided a year ago, before the pandemic hit, to run for office for president, I knew it would be a journey. I knew it would be a challenge. There were naysayers and folks that said it has never happened in the history of the Bronx. We've never elected an African American. We've never elected a woman. I said, well, the Bronx didn't see nothing yet. There is a time when God will set you up, when He sees that destiny, He sees that path, and all He needs you to do is trust Him. And don't doubt His power. And there been challenging times for us in the Bronx. We have been out there giving out food and PPE, dealing with COVID, the vaccination. I've had personal struggles, but through it all, I knew that God was still there. And even when people told me I couldn't do it, I wasn't a front runner. I said, watch me work. Watch a black woman work. We can't do this work by ourselves. And even despite so much that has happened, I was victorious because it was God's plan, not my plan. God's plan. And just like Tamika dedicated her vote to her son, I dedicate this election to our young kings and our young queens. Our children. Our children are killing each other. They are dying right before our eyes. My son and I were at a shooting response today in Belmont, where a 13-year-old was murdered in cold blood. Intended target. 13 years old. What kind of society do we live in when a teenager is gunned down? It is unacceptable. And so I want people to realize that we are all in this struggle together. And no matter what title we have in front of our name, God is using each and every one of us. And I believe that. I am never afraid to talk about God's presence in my life because He is my foundation. He is my foundation. And I refuse to ever let the devil win. We have to believe in something, y'all. Because if we don't believe, if we don't hope, we will perish. And there is too much at stake, too much on the line when you think about systemic racism. You think about the plague of gun violence, the plague of COVID. Black folks, we've been fighting all our lives for everything. And we still gonna keep fighting, right? We always say we're not free till we all free. Because some of us are still living with shackles. And we need to break those chains and realize that we are all that we need in this society. We all need that, we all need. And so as I think about this journey of me stepping from a council member, and I gotta give a shout out, as I've always said, my successor in the city council is Sister Althea Stevens. Because she's doing amazing work. Michael Blake and I, there were so many women of color that have run for office, never designed for them, and guess what they want? So I'm just so grateful for all of you, and I ask y'all to pray. Pray for my strength, pray for all of us, pray for Sister Tamika, pray for Brother Angelo, Brother Myson, Sister Jamila, pray for Sister Linda, everybody, because it's not easy doing this work. When the targets are on you, when people don't want to see you do good, you have to double up your efforts. So thank you everybody for listening.
They roll up on me home.
And then, yeah, in the middle of the night, and then what he called me,
That is a true story.
he's like, I was in the, you know, I share music. He's like, I don't know the radio.
We went to Albany at 11:30 at night.
Pull up like 30 people.
The thing is, Michael won't say, and I'll tell you, I don't know if I told you before, but I remember calling him one day telling him, Linda said this and this, I need to know this shit. What is supposed to happen in this issue? So we don't discriminate. And it has to be that way. It's okay because it's just love our people. And what happens is once you become an elected official, there's a lot of compromise, right? There's a lot of compromise. There's a lot of things that we don't see as the people who are on the outside. And it's not our job to understand the compromise. It's not our job to help you be more comfortable in making decisions. It's our job to hold the line. Right. And that's what we want to see happen. Although there's I don't know, this narrative that's out there that we cool with y'all because y'all are friends. People do not know. So the story about it going up to Albany is that we're all like texting on the thread, waiting. No, Angela was working on the Raise the Age campaign. He's actually the campaign manager for the organization that is trying to raise the age from 16 and 17 for children to be able to be prosecuted, especially if it's not murder or whatever. It's like, for many things. Right, and not having to double jail and all. This is a real noble cause, right? So you would think everybody's doing this. This is right. Like 16 and 17-year-olds should not be prosecuted as adults for non-violent offenses and be sent to adulthood.
Just for real context. So there was only 2 states in the country. And
North Carolina.
just saying the furthest of that, Khalid brought up our constituents.
Right.
You know, his mama, his mama literally came to our office.
Right.
People don't know that. His mama, God rest her soul, she passed away from having so many heart attacks because we didn't change the law. So let's just make sure we understand that.
You're right. That's what I think, and everybody's there with it. So we're like in the bed at home, like, all right, we're gonna pass it tonight. It's getting late. And all of a sudden, between Angelo and different people, we won't name names today. But folks are telling us, people who look like us are talking crazy stuff. Like it's like wavering. They were trying to call a lady, he's not answering the phone for a while. I'm like, yo.
I wasn't answering my phone.
At first, because you was fighting.
Because I was with a little kid.
It was a little boy.
It's to me, it's awesome.
And by the way, Blake's like sweating, like he's looking all lights, and stuff. All that. He's like, no, you don't know what's happening up here. It's crazy. So people who are supposed to be with us are not with us right now. They're bending. The IVF is in place at this time, right? I just do.
Oh, that's a whole other.
So this is a group of people who are supposed to be Democrats who are voting and leaning heavily towards Republican politics. And this is something that Governor Cuomo, who y'all love, because he went on TV and made some good COVID speeches. He has some good press conferences. And he gets y'all just love it. People just love him because he was so governor. Yeah, he was governor. That's what he is. That's what he's supposed to do. But that's a different day's conversation too. And so he's the one who has orchestrated this thing where people are being given, you know, what's it? They're being not celebrated, but what's it? Incentivized for joining the IEC as long as people are doing all this crazy stuff. So we're sitting there like, wait a minute, we're down here in Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan, and y'all go to Albany acting like y'all can get it. So don't worry about it. We on the way. 11:30 at night. We pack our stuff up and jump in the car and drive to Albany.
Jules was the driver.
She was driving so fast. It was like hours, we had hours to get there. So we get there and we get inside of the Capitol and we're in the building. And everybody starts going like, oh shit. They came up here. They start coming out here to the like, oh no, it's not what they're saying. We now told them that we be on the bill. Telling which I will not say their names, but the several IRC members, I remember looking them dead facing their eyes and saying, I promise you, in your next election will be your worst nightmare. And every single one of them was.
Everyone.
Meeting that happened, one of the officers, and there was an elected official who was talking crazy, and then they rolled in deep, and that person was on board within seconds. Seconds.
That happened.
I will say, a few of us have said this before, if I did nothing else for the rest of my life in politics, raise the age happen.
That's right.
And for the record, I'm Michael Blake's friend now.
I love you.
I used to not be all the way down.
We doing this. Look, you want to have votes, now we'll push you.
Yeah.
Because those are the ones who are rocking.
Because now you're great. You was good, but now you're great. You were good, but now you're great.
You see that love right there? You got that okay?
Great.
So I want to do one final thing. We're going to go back to Tamika to wrap this. And for those that are watching, if you were in the building, you can get a book that's going to be autographed by Tamika. And shout out to Liz Law, Noah Santos, who we purchased the book from. Tamika has this is a line towards the end. I think it's the perfect way to bring us all together because you can tell we are a family, we've been doing this together. However, you are leading this. No, she didn't say no. All right. So I don't need to own the moment. I don't need to be the voice of this movement. When the movement is co-opted by those determined to change and offer soften this message, I see it as another form of privilege and racism. But even more insidious because of the attacks that come from inside the house. Allies of activate must do so with consideration and respect that this is not their experience. The consequences of these protests will not affect their communities. Pause there. We fight to escape that broken identity never since, but the damage is not fixable overnight. This is the work. So I think Tamika should get the last word on this. What is the work then? Right? This is not a one-day thing. This ain't no casual thing. You didn't just show up for one night. We gonna celebrate your movement. Where do we go from here?
I struggle with this. I just do. I think it is a leader's nightmare to have to actually think about where we put the movements and how. Because there's just so much tension between what you know to be, what needs to be done, and what people are really ready to do. where there are people who you actually have sympathy for, who are being used as tools in this moment to destroy our movement. That's how serious it is. And because of that, I think a big part of the work is for us to build community in a way that keeps us strong and keeps us together. Yes, there is the work of how we fight, how we change systems, laws that need to be changed, and protests that need to be had, and voting that needs to be done, and fighting to be able to vote, and all of that. But I think there is a spiritual battle that we're up against, and until if we do not address that, we will never get to the other things. And that spiritual battle is around the idea of holding one another and holding those people who have stepped out in the front line, those people who are in elected offices, and people who are in corporate spaces trying to grab the bag and give it to their home. You know, those types of people need to be protected, they need to be loved, and we have to build a fence, as they say. What did the old folks say? Build a fence all around. We need a fence built around our movement that acknowledges that it is absolutely a paid propaganda machine that is powerful, that is literally tearing at the fabric of everything we do. And so it sounds something like, oh, Tamika Mallory is a fraud. It sounds like, you know, such and such is stealing money. It sounds like people, how many houses do people have? That's what they want you to focus on in order to keep you distracted from the work that is being done, or the work that should be done. And so I think that a big part of what we have to do in this moment is to remember that the spiritual realm is probably the place where the battle is happening the most. And with us being able to gain some level of control over that and continuing to keep God first in our fight, I think that will help us to have all the creativity that is necessary to continue to push for equity and change that we know we deserve.
Jules, clap up for Jules. Jules, you know, we close this out. There's instructions right here. Again, everybody chill. We will have the book signing in a moment. But clap up for Jules.
I just want to thank you all for everybody that's watching on the live stream. Thank you for tuning in. As Michael Blake said at the top of the show, Rapid Weeks it's an incredible program that the Gallery of Justice is really proud of. It's an opportunity for us to do what Mr. Belafonte wanted us to do, which is to bring the movement to people in different ways. He did it through music, and now I get to do books, and through art, and through hip-hop. And it's also really important to make movement accessible. Programs like this do it, and I think we did it really, really well today. So I just want to thank everybody for being here, and I especially want to thank our sister Tamika for I also ask that you join me in thanking our very special guest tonight, Blake. Gathering for Justice is at Applied Justice Week. You can learn more about us at gatheringforjustice.org. We have a lot of really great things coming up at the Gathering for Justice, so make sure you're tuning in. We just launched a new fellows program. Some of our young fellows are here in the building. Fellows from around the country. We are hosting our next youth town hall, our Voice of Power, probably in the very beginning of September. We are celebrating the Gathering's 16th anniversary in August, and we're part of Make America Festival in Philadelphia later weekend, and so much more. So thank you all. Really appreciate it. And Tamika, why don't you sit here and move your books on you guys?
Yeah, just I'll get